An island in Japan was once the most densely populated area in the world. It was also one of the biggest contributing factors to Japan's industrial revolution. And now, it lies completely uninhabited. A once hotbed of human activity now wears a derelict and desolate look. This island could be one of the best examples of what would happen if humans suddenly vanished off the face of this planet. This is the Hashima Island. Hashima is located in southern Japan, about 16 kilometers away from the center of Nagasaki, and is one of the 505 uninhabited islands in Nagasaki Prefecture. The island is called Gunkanjima Island or the Battleship Island owing to its shape from the profile which resembles an actual battleship. The history of the island starts around 1810. Hashima Island was rich in seabed coal deposits. At that time, coal was an important commodity, and with the rise of ships and other industries that relied on coal, the demand for it kept increasing. By the mid-19th and early 20th century, the island became a very important contributing factor towards Japan's rapid industrial growth. In 1890, the island was purchased by Mitsubishi and they began extracting coal from undersea mines. With time, they started requiring more labor, so more people were brought in, and that required more land for the people to stay on. Mitsubishi also started developing the infrastructure of this island. The weather of this island was harsh with constant rains, strong winds, and at times waves almost 30 feet high lashed against the island. So the buildings needed to be stronger and more durable. Thus, the first big concrete 7-storied building in Japan was constructed on this island in 1916. 2 years later, another 9-storied residential building was constructed on the island. Over the next half-century, a lot of buildings were constructed here, including more apartment complexes, schools, a theater, a kindergarten, a hospital, a bathhouse, and a town hall. They even had a swimming pool. More on these buildings in the latter part of this video. The island lacked any kind of vegetation. There were no trees or plants on the island. So the inhabitants started growing vegetables on rooftops by bringing in soil from the mainland. A lot of Japanese inhabitants called the island heaven on earth, but that changed very quickly. The real dark history of the island started with the Second World War. During and after the war, Chinese and Korean prisoners of war were brought in and forced to work in the coal mines in harsh conditions. A lot of them were unpaid or underpaid. The living conditions were so bad that some of them tried to escape the island but were drowned in the waves. The island also did not have a crematorium. The dead were cremated on the closest island. The slave labor that worked on the island called it hell on earth. By 1950, the mine was producing 14,000 tons of coal a month, making it a very profitable venture. In 1959, the island's population peaked at 5,259 people crammed in a 16-acre area, which means the population density was at around 83,500 people per square kilometer. The statistic also made it the most densely populated place in the world at the time. By 1960, coal was becoming increasingly difficult to mine, and the mines were starting to show signs of depletion. As a final nail in the coffin, petroleum started replacing coal, resulting in coal mining becoming obsolete and unprofitable, thus shutting down the coal mines across Japan. And Hashima was no exception. In 1974, Mitsubishi gave up on coal extraction in January. The people on the island started losing their primary source of income and they started moving out. In addition to that, Mitsubishi offered jobs in other sectors to a fraction of the population on Hashima, and it was on a first-come first-served basis. People started leaving hurriedly, and in about 3 months the island was deserted. The rush to leave was such that many of the personal belongings of the residents were left behind and are seen in the apartments even today. Between 1891 and 1974, around 15.7 million tons of coal was excavated from the island. The island is 485 meters in length and 170 meters in its width. So crossing from one part to another can be easily done by foot, so there was never a need for vehicles on the island. Even after the population dropped to zero, Mitsubishi owned the island until 2002 when it was transferred to Takashima town which was absorbed into Nagasaki in 2005. In 2009, the island was opened to visitors. The island now wears a derelict and forgotten look, and nature has started reclaiming parts of the island. All the factors combined with the history make it a very appealing destination for people who love ruins and dark tourism. Due to the unique setup of this place, it was also pictured in the James Bond movie Skyfall. In 2009, Japan first submitted the application to include the island in the list of UNESCO World Heritage Sites, but it was opposed by the South Korean government on account of the forced labor that was made to work there in World War II. The opposition was taken back after Japan promised it would acknowledge the use of Korean and Chinese forced labor. In 2015, the island was included in the list of UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and the attention it got since keeps increasing over time. Due to the UNESCO tag, the increased tourist footfall, and the feature in the Hollywood movie, Japan has restored some of the buildings on this island. It is illegal to travel to the island by oneself, and people can only go through the official tours organized by the Japanese government. Also, if you're planning a visit, access to this island comes with its own set of challenges. Because of the rough weather around the island, the trips can get cancelled last minute if the weather does not allow for them. The government organized tours only take you through a small portion of the island, and most of the area is barred for visitors since the buildings are not very safe to wander around. But Google once sent someone through the island with a 360-degree camera, and they have mapped a large part of the island that visitors can't go to. So if you're interested in the virtual tour, you can do it via Google Maps. If we look at all the construction on the island, to the very south of the island is the swimming pool that lies in ruins. The building looking over the pool is called Building 30 or the Glover House. This is the first concrete building in Japan and provided housing for miners, and more specifically, subcontractors. It had a basement containing a shop as well as a roof garden. The building next to it is called Building 31, and it housed communal baths, a post office, and more housing. There's also a lighthouse at the top of the mountain behind Building 31. The ruin next to that was once a movie theater. The theater is in complete disrepair because of huge waves that battered the building over time. Moving forward, the buildings are the Nikkyu flats, which together formed a block which was the tallest in Japan when it was constructed. Next to the block is a very famous stairway that is called the Stairway to Hell. It has been so named since a quick run from the bottom to the top makes one feel a hellish pain. The stairway leads to a temple at the summit. The prayer hall of the temple has completely collapsed, but it can be seen in some old photos. The shrine still remains to tell its story. Next is Building 65, which is a 9-storied construction that features 317 apartments that were built in 1945. A few years later, a nursery school was added at the top of the building. A toy slide constructed on the roof can still be seen from Google Maps. This block also had a dentist clinic and a barber shop in the basement. This building, along with the other residential buildings, contain a lot of belongings that have been left behind. In front of Block 65 lies the Salt Rain Crossing. Waves from typhoons would crash here, giving the effect of a salty rain. People would stand at the crossing and wait for the waves to retreat in order to reach the markets and the shops. To the very north of the island is a hospital and a school with a playground for recreational activities. The school was the final building to be built on the island. It also had a gymnasium that lies in ruins now. The school closed on 31st March 1974, and there is a very famous photo of the school children who arranged themselves in the playground to form the words Sayonara Hashima, which mean goodbye Hashima. And if you look at the front of the island, the open area was the main reason why the entire island was inhabited in the first place. Coal was extracted from underground and placed in tanks in this area, which was later transported to ships with conveyor belts that stood on the towering braces that still stand today. Most of the construction in the area is gone, but it can be seen in some old images of the island. And that's all about the Hashima Island. So would you like to visit Hashima or the Gunkanjima Island? Or do you have any interesting facts to share about the island? Do write in the comments section, and thank you for watching.